This week in fashion, we've got 3 top stories. Elf Beauty buys Rhode in a deal valued at $1 billion. Maria Grazia Chiuri finally has departed from Dior as creative director of women's wear. And Capri Holdings, after reporting revenue drops and losses, are standing strong in their turnaround plan. I'm Prinny. I talk all things fashion. Subscribe to my channel if you catch a vibe. Okay, let's get into the main story of the week. What a deal. This deal with Elf Beauty buying Rhode completely goes against the sentiments that there is a slowdown in beauty M&A activity. So looking at my notes, that $1 billion valuation is comprised of $800 million in cash and stock payable at closing of the deal, and an additional potential earnout consideration of $200 million based on future growth over a 3-year time frame. So when we say $1 billion, this is not just Hailey Bieber pocketing $1 billion in her bank account. And on the face of it, you know, I know the way that headlines are portrayed. To the layman, to the people who maybe don't know financials, that's how it seems. We also have to consider that Hailey Bieber is not the sole owner of Rhode. She has co-founders who obviously also have equity in the business. So if she wins and eats, they win and eat. It's a complete group effort. Elf was so committed to buying Rhode to the point where they took out $600 million in debt financing just to fund the deal. Rhode has only been in existence for 3 years, and last year they reported $212 million in revenue alone. That was a significant jump from the previous year. I think it was like an over 300% increase in revenue. And they only have 10 products. Hailey Bieber and the team have done an amazing job growing a company from 0 to $212 million in 3 years, organically pushing the product through social media, and in that short space of time have already landed themselves in Sephora, which is a big deal. This also gives Elf entry point into Sephora, because as of yet, I think without Rhode, none of their brands are stocked in Sephora. There are so many synergies between Elf and Rhode. When I think about Elf, especially in their heyday, it was a brand that really understood their young demographic, a brand that was centered around community activations, knew how to organically work with influencers in the same way you have Hailey Bieber as, you know, the celebrity influencer face of the brand, connecting with the customers in that way that is just so organic. Hailey Bieber is going to stay on in the business. So she is going to be Chief Creative Director and Head of Innovation, as well as being a strategic advisor both to Rhode and also to Elf, which is going to be so beneficial for Elf, because what she's been able to do, her influence in building her own business, sharing that knowledge with Elf is going to be so invaluable for them. I love Elf's strategy of what they're doing in building their portfolio, going for beauty and skincare brands that are led with founders that are the face-off. So you obviously got Rhode that they recently bought. Prior to that, they bought Naturium Skincare, fronted by Susan Yara, and they also incubated Alicia Keys' line Soul Care. I see exactly what they're doing. I see the play, and it makes complete sense for where we are in the market. You know, there've been so many conversations about the pros and cons of being the face of your brand, the face of your brand. And what this shows is that if the strategy is activated correctly with good PR and focus, being the face of your brand is really the way to win and cut out all the noise in the market, because there are so many beauty brands. Like oh my goodness, every time I go into Sephora, Space NK, where else do I shop? Online, Cult Beauty, you go into Boots, you go into Superdrug, it's just like, oh my God, I just want a cream. I just want one cream. And why do I see 5,000 with like cute packaging, and some don't have cute packaging but they work, and there's just so much. So being the face of and connecting with your customer directly and building that relationship is so invaluable, and looking forward to see what they both do together. It will be interesting to see where some of the other celebrity-led beauty brands land when it comes to looking for investment, being acquired, or potentially going public. I'm going to give quick fire bullet points on Maria Grazia Chiuri's departure from Dior Women's. This has been a long time coming. If you don't already follow me on social media, on TikTok, do follow me, because I post videos daily talking about fashion. And for months, we have been discussing the rumored departure of Maria Grazia Chiuri. This started with the initial rumors that Jonathan Anderson was going to take over at Dior. And I remember saying this in a video, and somebody commented and said, I don't think he's going to take over men's and women's. That's going to be a big undertaking. And I took a pause and I was like, no. I think they need him to take over both. I don't think it's enough to bring in Jonathan Anderson to just focus on men's. He needs to come and give that John Galliano experience, being across everything, end-to-end creative direction at Dior. That is what Dior needs. So obviously when Kim Jones departed, there was a couple of months where we were not sure. It got announced that Jonathan Anderson was taking over at men's. Maria was still in position. We were waiting. She finally presented her final collection, the Dior Cruise collection, which was gorge. A gorgy collection, an amazing way to go out. And following that, they finally announced that she will be leaving after 9 years in the position. She's written a chapter in Christian Dior history, being the first woman to lead the creation of women's wear. That is epic. I don't care what anyone says about any of her collections or her tenure there, just being a staple in the history of the house, being the first woman to lead women's wear, I think that's absolutely amazing. Her feminist political lens in communicating fashion will not be forgotten, and especially the way in which she consistently collaborated with women across the creative industry. But that being said, Dior has not been performing well for many years, and it is time for new creative energy. So I'm so looking forward to seeing what my darling Jonathan Anderson does at Christian Dior. And finally, onto Capri Holdings. I think I might need to do like a roundup little deep dive video on what exactly happened to Capri Holdings over the last few years. Like I said again, I've spoken about this at length on TikTok, so if you're not following me there, make sure you do. But essentially, Capri Holdings is Michael Kors. So it started off as Michael Kors. They bought Jimmy Choo and Versace and then changed the name of the holding company to Capri Holdings. At the beginning of the fiscal year, they were looking forward to the idea of Tapestry buying Capri, because Capri was just not doing well. They needed help, they needed funding, they needed support. Tapestry is effectively Coach. Coach bought Stuart Weitzman and Kate Spade and then changed the holding company name and became Tapestry. Michael Kors, I'm gonna call Capri Michael Kors because it's effectively Michael Kors. Michael Kors were looking at Tapestry for help because they've seen what they've done with Coach. The Coach turnaround story has been insane. And they're thinking, listen, you guys are into bags. We were really into bags. You did a turnaround. I think you might have the strategy to help us turn things around and get Michael Kors popping again. The US government said absolutely not. If you guys merge, that will affect competition in the market. You will basically be a monopoly when it comes to accessible luxury. That's what was said. They went to the courts, back and forth, and eventually the deal fell apart. Tapestry said, you know what? Too much of a problem. Let's focus on what we're doing, because what we're doing is working. We've got Coach doing really well. We're on the brink of trying to turn around Kate Spade. I have said I'm giving Kate Spade 2 years. They're gonna have an it girl bag and they're gonna have their moment. Anyway, we've got Kate Spade turning, and Stuart Weitzman is there doing its thing. I think they potentially might spin that off. On the Capri Holding side, Michael Kors is not doing well. Versace was not doing well. Jimmy Choo is not doing well. Across the board, it is just a flop. It's a flop, okay? A few months after the deal fell apart, Versace has been sold to Prada in a deal worth 1.4 billion. So now Capri is left with Michael Kors and Jimmy Choo. There is still a question mark on whether they're going to sell Jimmy Choo and maybe just focus on their core. But they recently announced their Q4 financials, and it's no shock. We've got revenue declines across all brands and losses. They are saying they're committed to their turnaround plan. They've closed quite a few Michael Kors stores and they're tightening up their wholesale distribution. They really want to focus and sharpen up the presentation of their brands, which is needed. When we think of fashions, when we think of things, is anyone really talking about Michael Kors? Other than a show here or there, no one's really talking about Michael Kors, and it's so sad because I walked past a Michael Kors store and I'm like, some of the bags are cute, but where is the marketing? Where is the marketing? Where is the advertising? I don't see it. Jimmy Choo, again, they also have amazing shoes. I was about to say where is the marketing, but I just remembered that last week they released the archive collection, which went down a treat. It went down a treat. So we're seeing the focus, we're seeing things come together. I guess they're gonna need runway. They're gonna need at least a year to fully execute the strategy on both brands, assuming they keep Jimmy Choo, for the results to show in the numbers. So what are your thoughts on Michael Kors more generally as a brand? Where do they stand for you? And what advice would you give if you had to give senior leadership advice? And that is This Week in Fashion. I made it through my first kind of official YouTube video, but kind of not official because I have so many videos. But anyway, we're gonna do way more yapping on this channel. If you caught a vibe, you know what to do. Subscribe. Oh my god, not me rhyming. Is that gonna be my little tagline? I will be back next week for your weekly roundup of fashion news.